Hello, I thought I should do a quick tournament review for a GBHL tournament I went to last weekend. It's called Journey Across Rohan. I was GBHL 90, so that's sort of middling competitiveness. It's just a one day 500 points. It was fairly local to me because it was hosted by Black Dragon Miniatures in Hinkley, which is a nice, friendly local gaming store. Quite a few tables. So it's just in the middle of town as well. So it's a pretty good location, and like I said, just up the A5 from where I live. So that's pretty nice. So this one sort of snuck up on me really, so I didn't really put any thought into my list. I was gonna try and take something interesting, but then I was just like, oh, I need to submit the list now. So I just defaulted to Scouts, which I know is a bit boring. I went with Ugluck Scouts. So at 500 points, I ran it with Ugluck, leading obviously first warband, and obviously overall leader. He had a Marauder with Banner, and then 6 Uruk Marauders with Uruk Bow, and then 5 with Shield. And then Malhir had 6 with Uruk Bow, and then 6 with Shield. And then Mr. Grishnak was equipped with a shield to get to that yummy Defense 6. And then he had 8 warriors with Spear and Shield, and then 4 warriors with Spear. I think I have run this list a stupid amount of times, which I think I'm going to retire it, because I think I must have taken it to like 3 or 4 tournaments now, so it's getting a bit old. The list is obviously pretty good because although you lose the They Shall Know No Fear Army Special Rule for Isengard, you get Animosity, which is when Uruk and Orc are in the same fight. If they win, then they get +1 to wound. You get Woodland Creature, and obviously the other thing is you get the Marauder upgrade for free for your Uruk, so they're all moving 8 inches. So it's pretty good. Obviously it's strength, so that if you get in and do it right, then you get a lot of fight 4 everywhere, and then you've obviously got strength 4 and strength 3 with the +1 though, so it's pretty good. If you win combat, so you get the animosity going, it's pretty good. Obviously you can also rank up because you tend to give the orcs spears, because obviously orcs don't have access to spears. So the way I tend to play it is, if we're relatively even on numbers, I sort of rank up a bit and just sort of try and push through, make a few holes, and then that's when you get the right priority in, and you can sort of jump everyone in, and then you get the animosity going, and then you can really sort of tip things in your favour. And obviously Malhir is a good troop killer. Grishnak is also very good because he's got his backstabber rule, which stacks with the animosity, so he gets +1 if he's fighting a trapped opponent as well as the animosity. And he's also the only defense 6, so he's kind of weirdly tanky, especially with strike, so he's sometimes my assassin or something like that. Ugluck's obviously very steady, but with all 3 heroes, obviously the thing is they can just die and go down quickly. And same with the list itself. I mean, there's a few things it doesn't like it doesn't like terror. But also if you're able to just sort of win fights against Ugluck Scouts and sort of just kill models, then they actually do go down, because obviously they're only defense 5. So that's pretty much it in terms of the list, so let's just get straight into the games. So my first game I was against Ryan Fernandez, who I think was saying this is his first tournament. He brought Riders of Theodred, which is obviously a pretty decent list. He had Theodred, Grimbold, and the captain on horse, and then he had just a bunch of Royal Guard with Helmingers behind. They were throwing spears, and I think he had three Outriders and then 2 or 3 Royal Guard on horse with throwing spear. Pretty good. I think that's pretty much how I would run it if it was me, just in case anyone needs validating with with that. The first match was Fog of War. I picked Grishnak as my hero to keep alive because he has strike, and he is also defense 6, and he is also just I like to be kind of more reckless with Malhir, because obviously it's between him and Malhir, so I thought sod it, Grishnak, because at least if he's in trouble, obviously I've got a couple of strikes in me, so that's good. I chose to kill the captain. I nearly went Grimbold because I thought he'd have to throw Grimbold in and he doesn't have strike, so yeah, that's not too bad. But I didn't want to put myself in a situation where I had to put one of my heroes into Grimbold, because if that goes wrong, then it's going to go really wrong. I thought he'd have to throw his captain in to support Theodred as well, so actually his captain can fluff quite easily, and then that's potentially a dead captain pretty quickly. And then there was a terrain piece at the back, just a wooded piece, which I chose because I could either choose that, or there was I think there was a hill on the right hand side, and then a pond on the left hand side. So I chose the thing farthest away, and that was pretty much because I was hoping to just run a couple of orcs around him and then hide in the woods and then use woodland creature just to sort of, just do what I needed to do basically. So yeah, the plan going in was I didn't really have much of a plan, but the plan, such as it was there was this big central piece of terrain in the middle, and I thought, well, actually, if I kind of deployed heavily on one side, he deployed heavily on the other. And I was sort of thinking, well, worst comes to worst, I sort of just blast past him and run, get my objective, and then obviously he'd get mine, but I kind of feel I'd be in a slightly stronger position because I could then sit back and shoot and make him sort of come to me. In retrospect, maybe I should have deployed opposite him, but I had to put a wall band down first, which kind of messed me about a little bit, but yeah, I think what I should have done is, after I deployed my first Uruk warband, and he deployed one on the opposite side, I should have then, I think, deployed my final two in front of him, because then I could quickly bring Malheirs around, so then I could kind of create quite a nice little box. But I didn't do that. I just went heavy on one side, and it was one of those games where my plan sort of developed as the game developed, really. So I almost sort of just called a march and just chucked everyone forwards, but I didn't end up doing that. What I sort of started off doing was he sort of started to split his force a bit to go around both sides of this middle terrain piece. So what I did is I kind of lined my guys up against the smaller part of his force and just sort of shot at him a lot. And meanwhile, on my other side, I sort of formed this concave line, hoping that he would basically. This is kind of me underestimating him as well. I think because I sensed he was a newer player, I was a bit like, well, I might just sort of do that and see if he charges in. But it didn't work. He didn't charge in. And I think the problem was my shooting was just really bad. Like, I was being outshot by 3. So I had 12 bows. I was being outshot by 3 outriders. Like, I lost three archers, and I didn't kill a thing, I don't think. And then I was starting to get concerned about throwing spears and stuff. So in the end, what I decided to do was have a few guys sort of just tying up stuff on my left, just a few Uruks, and if they kill stuff, great. If they don't, whatever. Because Theodred and the captain and Grimbold were all on this other side, so I was a bit like, well, if I just go heavy there, I can, murder stuff, and if I kill, because obviously he's trying to protect one of his heroes. If I, if I end up killing both the captain and Grimbold, obviously that's good for me, and obviously Theodred can go down quite quickly as well. So I was sort of hoping to deal with the heroes pretty quickly, and then the rest of it should sort of come apart. There's not actually too much to say with this one, other than I didn't play it particularly well, and then on top of that, I think his infantry just sort of ground my infantry out. Because we're both fight 4 and then mostly 5s to kill, but it just seemed to not really go right for me, and there was a bit of my overall strategy not being great, because there's a lot of sort of shuffling around and non-committal moves from both sides for like the first hour, so we didn't actually really do much for most of the game. Yeah, he basically charged his captain Theodred in because he won sort of the first of the key move offs. It was a bit annoying because it meant that I put my heroes behind my line so they wouldn't get throwing speared, but then because I lost that move off, they were basically stuck behind. behind my infantry for a turn, which was annoying, which was bad placement from me. But then I did pull off a pretty good move in that I then I feel like I lined it up perfectly because nearly perfectly, because the key moment which basically decided the game was Grimbold was in combat with one guy. I forgot to put another guy behind my first guy to block a heroic combat, so he called a combat with Grimbold. But what I'd done is I'd completely loaded up this combat with Theodred. So I think I was, doing the strike combat thing, because I was basically going to try and flash kill Theodred, then flash kill the captain. So it was going to be perfect. And I think he sort of struck with Theodred in response, and I think he, in my view, didn't put Grimbold in the best place, because I think Grimbold basically called a combat and then went and fought some random Uruk, which didn't really have a bearing on anything. I was kind of more worried he was going to split off Grishnak, because I think he was the one calling the strike. But I think he won that combat, and then I think I then lost the strike off with Theodred. So I think Theodred luckily didn't strike my heroes. He just killed a bunch of warriors, I think. And then I think I then managed to I can't remember the ins and outs of who won what, but I think basically I obviously that combat strike didn't come off, and then I think the following turn, Theodred was able to kill Malhir. Oglek was able to kill Grimbold, which was good over the course of 2 turns, which was nice. But I think I tried to kill the captain a couple of times, and he just kept winning the combats basically, and I think I ran out of might, and then I lost a couple of priorities, which meant he was able to shut my guys out. So basically it didn't go that well. I think my one saving grace is Grishnak didn't die, so that was good. I didn't capture my terrain piece because my left flank just totally collapsed. Even when I was able to pick the charges and get the animosity going, I just couldn't seem to kill anything. My sort of middle line of warriors just sort of melted for some reason. I did lose a bunch of guys to throwing spears, but he basically was able to just run past me and capture his objective. So he broke me, captured his terrain piece. I think he was aiming to keep his captain alive, which he did. He was untouched, but I think he was aiming to kill Grishnak, but he only wounded Grishnak, so he got 10. And I basically, the only thing I did was I kept Grishnak alive, although he was sort of 1 wound, no fate, I think. So I got 1 VP. Which obviously, it was a pretty bad result. It was a little, it's just one of those, because I think if those sort of strike and combats had gone differently, then I think I could have very easily flash killed Theodred and the captain in 1 turn, but it's just obviously just didn't go that way, and that's just the way it goes, I suppose. But my opponent ended up winning the tournament, so didn't feel too bad. So my next game was Hold Ground, which is the one where you maelstrom deployment onto the board, and then you're basically looking to have more models within 6 inches of the middle at the end of the game. So I was against Jordan Whitaker, who had Kingdom of Moria. So his list was quite small in that it was Barlin with 4 Vault Warden teams, 4 Iron Guard, 2 Rangers with bow, and then King's Champion with 2 Rangers, 3 Warriors with bow, and then 3 Warriors with shield. So it's actually quite a shooty list, and since he has 7 bows, 3 of them being dwarf bows. Obviously the King's Champion comes with the 2 banners, which is nice. I won priority, which was a bit of a bummer. I think he got to place Grishnak, so he placed him sort of in as far away from the objective as possible, in one of the corners. I think I rolled a 2, so I didn't really see the sense in fighting it. But what was sort of lucky was Malhir and Oglek both rolled once, so they did not turn up. So he he rolled and had to split his warbands. So the King's Champion, his warband came on one, I think, like the north side of the table or something, and then his other warband came on the east. So they were split up. So when Malhir, when it was the next turn, I think he got to move first, which was good because then I rolled from Malhir and basically decided to bring him on right behind Barlin's warband. But then Ugluk rolled the worst possible roll he could do, which was a 2, because I think I needed him to come on the eastern or western board edges, and so I needed a 5 or 6 for that. So I pretty early on sort of committed to what game I was going to play, and I spent all 3 might to come on where I wanted to come on, because I thought if I can actually just come in and completely slap Barlin's warband, that's going to be quite an easy win for me. So yeah, that was pretty good, and I basically came on the board sort of 4 inches and just shot him loads. And shooting was actually quite effective because by the time we got to combat, I think I killed like 4 or 5 dwarves with shooting. I think something like that. It was pretty good. It was quite surprising actually. And his shooting and throwing weapons weren't too effective, luckily. But he was basically trying to decide whether to stand and fight or run to the middle. In the end, the following turn, he called it heroic to run away with Barlin. I didn't counter call just because my orcs were too far away. So I'd be fighting him with a few Uruks, and I don't think Malhir was in a great position to call a move anyway. So I just sort of thought, fine, that's sort of one less strike coming my way, so he can sort of move away, but I'm still going to catch him. So I just shuffled forwards again, 4 inches, and shot again. And meanwhile, my orcs were sort of running, racing up to the middle. But I was really confident at this point actually, because I'd taken off a surprising amount of dwarves. I had way more models, and I was pretty confident I could surround and gank one of his warbands pretty quickly. But what ended up happening was I did catch him before he could sort of reform the line too much. But basically I wasn't able to kill... I killed a few dwarves, but I wasn't able to kill them quickly enough to stop them from basically just sort of surviving and then kind of forming around this one bottleneck towards my side of the board on the objective. And meanwhile, as King's Champion sort of came up to basically seal up another bottleneck, and we were quickly running out of time, so I couldn't sort of just disengage and run around. I sort of had to try and blast through. So what I was basically trying to do is stay alive on the King's Champion's end of the board, because that's where Barlin was as well, so it was very choppy heroes, and just surround and just absolutely slap the other dwarves and then sort of pour in on the objective over there. But I just had a few turns of just awful combats. It's just one of those where just nothing seems to go right, and he just killed a whole bunch of dudes, and then before I knew it I was broken. Because when I won combats, obviously I struggled to kill the shield guys for the Vault Warden team, which is fair enough, but I also sort of struggled to kill much else. It kind of picked up a bit towards the end, but by then he sort of chopped away so much that it was pretty difficult, and basically I just had to try and rush a few models past his sort of gauntlet to try and sort of get to the middle. But yeah, in the end, I think we went to time, and it basically ended up so I had 11 models in the middle and he had 12, which was really annoying. And he broke me. So yeah, I lost that one too. But it was a very close game, so it's a good game. It's just one of those where I just seem to be doing okay, and then out of nowhere the game just sort of ended. So I lost that one 6-0 because he hadn't quite broken, but he broke me, and then he had more models within 6 inches of the middle, so I lost that one 6-0. So things are going badly first 2 games. So I kind of entered that point where I was a bit worried I'd be scrapping for the spoon. But on to game 3. So game 3 was Storm the Camp, but using the retrieval deployment. But yeah, I was playing against Matthew Hardwick and his host, the Dragon Emperor. So he had Dragon Emperor, 1 Black Dragon, Cataphract with War Drum, and then 5 Black Dragons with Shield, and then 10 with Pike and Shield. Then he had Brogear with 1 Acolyte, 1 Black Dragon with Bow, and then just 5 Eastling Warriors with Bow. So he deployed his Emperor's Warband on one side of this sort of middle terrain piece. I was on the same board as game 2, so it was the same Sphinx in the middle of the board. So he put one of his warbands on one side, then another on the other side. So I lined up Malhir and Grishnak against his main force, and then Ugluk's warband was basically going to blast into Brogear and his archers, and then just run past and sit on the objective. So my plan was always to have Ugluk nowhere near anything, good, and just basically kill a bunch of dudes and then run past and sit in the objective and keep those leader points safe as well. And obviously, I'm just going to use my numbers to surround the pike block, and then I'll just try and feed the Emperor to keep him from squishing too much, and hope his base sort of interferes with him getting anywhere too useful. So I'm not sure who had the first priority, but we obviously deployed out of charge range. So in that turn, I basically moved up Ugluk's warband to within charge range and took a couple of, I think 3 actually, orcs with him, just to get the animosity and the spear support to make sure we really put that warband down. And then parts of Ugluk's warband went with the other guys, just for the numbers. Basically, I think turn 2 I got the priority, so I was able to charge a bunch of archers on Ugluk's side, and then I just completely wrapped around the Easterling pike block on the other side with Grishnak and Malhir there. Causing some trouble, and then just feeding the Emperor 1 guy and then putting in another guy to block a combat going anywhere useful. And there's not really too much to say about the pike block stuff. My heroes weren't really that useful because Grishnak being fight 4 is not great, and then Malhir equaling fight with them is also not great. And I wasn't able to completely surround his pike block immediately, which meant that he was able to move his pikes so that he had 3 dice against my heroes, which meant they weren't really doing much. And obviously he shielded where he needed to shield, and got a couple of supports where he needed to. So it was a very grindy match. So he didn't. He wasn't killing tons of stuff. He was getting a few kills here and there, and I was getting a few kills here and there. But I just it was quite an attritional fight, that one, I think, with the pike block. So Matthew did something pretty clever, which I didn't think of, which was annoying. It was Brogear was sort of hiding at the back, and I thought he was too far away to really do anything. But then he sort of spent a couple of turns moving in from his left to his right, and then he basically lined this thing up where Malhir, Grishnak, an Oracle 2, and then the banner were all in a tremor line, which is just so dumb. So he cast a 4 dice tremor on I can't remember who he cast it on, but I went to resist with Grishnak because he had 1 will and the 3 might. I was quite pleased that he chucked 4 because I was kind of pretty confident he was going to roll high, but then obviously 1 dice, as long as if I get at least a 3, then it's mightable, so it wasn't the worst odds and I wouldn't have to worry about it again. So I might lose my banner, but my heroes will probably be okay. But I think he rolled a 5 and then mighted it to a 6, and then I rolled a 3 and spent all 3 of his might on to get it to a 6. And then I think Brogear after that sort of came in to help, and then basically got surrounded and killed by Malhir. So that was kind of Brogear's thing, but I was kind of happy to mostly be rid of that threat, even if it cost me three might, which is a bit annoying because I was thinking, well, do I just strike and tower pit the Dragon Emperor a bit? But obviously, it didn't really didn't pan out that way. Because I thought striking Grishnak with backstabbers and animosity might be a good option to kill the Emperor, but just never really sort of got there. So we just continued to trickle feeding the the Emperor. Meanwhile, on the other side, I was just sort of slowly grinding through the archers and stuff. Just took a weird amount of time to do, but we did eventually do it. And those guys basically killed the archers and then ran to his camp and captured it. I think I must have had like 5-6 guys maybe in his camp. Meanwhile I was sort of whittling down the pike block a bit. I think the bad thing was I think Grishnak and Malhir got squished at some point. I can't remember by what, to be honest. I just remember that they were squished because I didn't have heroes in the middle. To be honest, I can't remember, but it might have been the pikes ground them down. I think the Emperor might have had something to do with one of them dying. But I was so close to being broken. But then Matthew won a priority and then basically started moving away from my camp, which was pretty handy. So I only had 3 archers I kept back to protect my camp, although they basically were useless the whole game, as it turns out. What I was really worried about was him killing a few more models, breaking me, and then going and capturing my camp before the game ends, because then we'd capture each other's camp, but he could force a draw, because I'd broken him by this point, but obviously none of his guys ran away, just didn't care. And I obviously kept, after I broke him, I think I kept winning the priorities, and I just thought it was better to tie everyone up rather than relying on people failing courage tests. He sort of started falling back slowly, and I ended up being on the courage tests for the last couple of turns, but I sort of passed a weird amount and just sort of carried on tying people up, and basically the game ended before he got anyone back to the camp. And obviously I had enough guys with Ugluck, so he could just use the head taker rule, so I didn't risk losing my leader to courage tests. And that's basically how the game ended. Dragon Emperor and a few boys left outside the camp. By the end of it, I think most of my guys were dead or had run away from the middle, but obviously they'd done their job of tying stuff up. So I suppose it was sort of mission accomplished, really. So I broke him and captured his camp with my camp uncaptured, and he broke me, so I think I was 7-1. So yes, hopefully I was at spoon range now, but it was an interesting game. It would have been interesting to see what happened if he broke me and then pushed forwards and possibly got the draw, but equally there probably wasn't enough time, and I did have some guys sitting there tying stuff up, so I can kind of see his logic of coming back to boot me out of his camp. But I think either way, I think my sort of mobility there has helped really, so it was quite difficult to deal with. Alright, so on to game 4. So final game of the day was capture and control, which is where you've got 5 objectives, sort of 3 along the middle line, and then 1 set back on each side, and it's the one where you flip them to being in your control, so they start neutral, and then you end a turn in base contact with no enemies about and whatnot, and then flip it to your control. So I was against Thomas Wilson and his Rangers, which I love as a list because it's just vanilla Rangers. So it was Arathorn, Halbrand with Banner, 1 Ranger of the North, and then 11 Dunedain, 5 of which had spears. I love that list. It's a lot of fun. I've ran it at 400 points and enjoyed it, but I don't think you could say it's really spicy, because obviously the army bonuses, they get 2 attacks and have Woodland Creature, but I have Woodland Creature and I have Fight 4, Strength 4 models against Defense 4 armies with sort of 1.5 wounds because they have 1 wound and 1 fate. So it's actually a pretty terrible matchup. I think Fight 4, Strength 4 is not good against not good for Rangers. So I basically deployed in the middle, and I kind of just deployed as a ball because I was pretty exhausted by this point, so my brain was just a bit like meh. But I kind of set up, so I was like, well, I might march, I might not, I don't know, but I'll decide. I'll decide at some point, and I've got that option. I had some guys sort of in weird places as well, just to pick up objectives and avoid having to be part of the march. So stuff like that. So yeah, I kind of had a bunch of archers sort of moving half and sort of popping some shots off, but overall the bulk of my force was moving sort of forwards and diagonally towards where he had about half his army with Arathorn and Halbrad. I was just like, well, I'm gonna have to deal with them because if I kill them, that lot, then that's him broken, and also then he has, like if I kill those sort of 7 or whatever it was, then he has like 6 left or something. So there's just no way he can cover the board with that. He deployed back, so he had 4 guys in the woodlands I was trying to capture in the first game, and then he had Arathorn, Halbarad and a bunch of dudes in this little choke point, and he had a couple of guys in this little terrain piece shooting out, and he had one sneaky guy trying to go around the side to sort of threaten my side objectives. And I basically just held most of my archers back and was just throwing some shots around, and I think I might have got a point of fate off a couple of people, but it was kind of ineffective. But then his shooting was also appalling, so I don't know if he must have killed something, but I think he must have killed like 1 or 2 models before he got into combat, which was pretty handy because I was worried about the kiting. I was just like, it's going to be one of those games where I'm just running around after him and stuff, and I was like, I got movement 8, so it should be okay. But in the end, I think what he wanted to do was just pepper me in and just get involved. I did mess up in the sense that I really did not anticipate him getting involved the first turn I was within 6. I sensed he was going to shoot and then get involved the second turn because he was kind of holding this choke point as well, so I couldn't really bring my numbers to bear. So by coming out, I could then do what I did best, which is this kind of scattered loose melee where I can get orcs and urks in the same combat pretty easily. Making it sound like it wasn't a good idea. It was a good idea because he just came in and obviously he just piled up these combats and just it was just sort of hammering my dudes. So he called a combat strike with both Arathorn and Halbarad. I had to call a defensive strike with Ugluk. I didn't call one with Mao here because obviously, he doesn't have strike anyway. So I didn't call one with Grishnak either because I was just a bit like, I think I've just got to protect Ugluk and hope for the best with Mao here. So, so basically, he murdered. Well, he must have murdered like 9 dudes first turn. It was grim. It was very grim. Arathorn ended up thinking better of going into a striking Ugluk, I think. So I think he just killed a few more warriors, I think. And obviously his rangers sort of spread out and killed some dudes, and Halbarad killed his opponent. And then this was kind of the biggest injustice of the game, was Halbarad won his combat, struck to fight 10, got into Mao here, 2 dice with a reroll, rolled like a 3 high, I think, because he could have mited it twice to beat my 5, but then obviously I would have mited it a final time, and I also had the banner as well to re-roll. So he thought, well, sod it, I'll save it for a strike next turn. I obviously then proceed to roll 3 wounds with Mao Higgs. I only needed 4 to wounds, and that's a dead Halbarad, which was pretty grim. And then that was the banner gone immediately as well. So that was I lucked out there, frankly. There's not too much to say about the rest of it. Again, he won a few priorities and I didn't really bother countering, so I was like, well, he's got so much might, and just fine, I'll just save my might. There's not too much to say. I think he won a couple of combats and then killed a couple of dudes, but mostly it was me me doing the killing, getting the animosity going, winning the combats, and then just obviously just doing all the wounds. Arathorn went into Ugluk and they had a couple of strike offs, and he just couldn't go his way. He was very unlucky, because obviously I was very nervous every time with that. I did mess up as well, and that I don't know why, but I had my banner in combat one time just to get an animosity thing, and I did that combat before the one next to it, and it meant that I lost and he killed my banner, which was really, really, really dumb. But it turns out I didn't need it, because obviously I managed to outstrike Arathorn and then just sort of roll the sixes with Ugluk, so he got out of trouble. Meanwhile, I think Grishnak and Malhir was sort of just heroic, trapping, getting animosity and heroic combating around and just sort of sweeping up a few ranges that way. And then eventually, I think they came into the back of Arathorn with a combat potentially and killed him. But yeah, Thomas was very unlucky with Halbarad with that strike combat move, and then unlucky with Arathorn as well. I think he lost every. I think he must have struck against Ugluk twice and lost both. So yeah, because Ugluk can obviously very easily be killed by Arathorn. So I kind of just cleaned up in the middle, and then there was obviously one ranger sort of trying to go around my side, who I sort of took a fate off, and then I think I chucked one guy into combat with him, and then took his other wound, and then that was him. The guys that were hiding up in the castle thing, they came down and sort of met the same fate as all the other guys in the middle, and then at the end of the game there was just the four guys at the back who. I'd split off a couple of guys, well not a couple, I split off some dudes to go and deal with, and Malhir sort of eventually wandered off that way and got involved, and I think again, I think I just got the upper hand there, although I think he managed to get a combat off. So in the end that one was a pretty nasty one for Thomas, I think, but it's just an awful matchup for him. I think it's possibly the worst matchup, because he can't kite me, because I can outrun him. If he wants to get involved, we're both fight 4, I have strength 4, and I'm just I can just quite easily kill these sort of high point models with just some sort of crappy warriors really. My heroes are fairly decent as well, so I think it's just always going to be a tough old matchup for him, and I managed to get the 12-0 that way, but I think there was a couple of incidents, like obviously the first turn where I didn't expect him to charge me. I wasn't really thinking, and I was tired, and you caught me out, and I was just like, oh crap. So I lucked out there, and then obviously I was stupid to lose my banner, but other than that I kind of just did what I needed to do really, which was good. That was the end of that one, which was all the games for the day. So my final position was not great. So I finished. Where did I finish? I finished 14th out of 24 with 2 wins, 2 losses. But I think there was only one person who did worse than me with 2 wins, 2 losses. So I think basically from 15th to 9th were all people with 2 wins, 2 losses. So I was sort of down the bottom there, but I think I was lucky it didn't go worse, to be honest. But that was a good one. I think they're going to start running more tournaments there as well at Black Dragon Miniatures. So be keen to get down there a bit in the future, because it's only an hour away from me. I think the scouts might be getting retired. I think it was just moving sort of the high number of models, and I just kind of played with them so much before. I was a bit like meh. A bit uninspired with the list, so I think I need to retire it and get something else out. I think just finished off some Mirkwood Rangers, so I've got enough for 800 points, so I might maybe try that, I don't know. But hope you guys enjoyed my rambling, and I'll see you at the next one.